Hey guys, what is up? Mike Chase here, back again with a Madden 23 wishlist video. I've done a franchise one. This one's going to be more, I think, general things I would like to see. One of these is kind of franchisey, I suppose, but think of it more like a general thing that sort of an expansion of what I said in that franchise wishlist video. And so number one here is going to be expansion mode with Teambuilder 2.0. This is something I would really like to see in Madden 23. I think it makes a lot of sense because you're bringing back the NCAA series next year, hopefully, unless it gets delayed into 2024, which would really suck. But expansion mode with Teambuilder 2.0, I think seeing the full Teambuilder suite sort of return would be amazing. I think this is something that we've wanted to see, that we kind of, honestly, I would like to see this happen even if they don't add an expansion mode. Just give us the ability to, when we relocate teams, to fully actually create a team. Maybe bring back create a team where we just sort of create the team in one menu and then just bring it in with the cupcake roster, sort of how like you used to. I think that'd be really cool. Back in the old Maddens, back on PS2, when you would create a team, I think that'd be a lot of fun. But I think letting us, upload our own team logos, let us create our own uniforms, let us build out our own stadiums. I know MLB The Show has Ballpark Creator. That's a really cool tool. It's really powerful. I've messed around in it a little bit this year. First time buying MLB The Show in a few years. That's a really cool feature. I think that'd be really cool to bring over to Madden. I know that necessarily in football, the stadium really doesn't matter. Not like the dimensions of a football field change from stadium to stadium, but I think that would make it something that's somewhat easier to put into the game. I think more stadium sort of customization would be really cool. I think that would make it a lot easier to do moving forward. And also, the last time the NFL, and this is something as well I like to see in here, was the actual rules. The last time the NFL had an expansion team was in 2002 for the Houston Texans. And in the draft, these were the rules. Each NFL team had to list 5 players that the Texans could select. And the Texans were required to claim either 30 players or $27.2 million in contracts, or around 38% of the cap. So that would be a lot more now today. After the Texans selected a player from an existing team, that team could remove a player from the remaining list. If a second player was taken, the existing team could then pull back its remaining 3 players. However, teams were not required to remove players from the draftable list, resulting in 3 Jets and 3 Jaguars players being drafted by the Texans. And the Texans were also prohibited from selecting a player from a team and then trading them back to the club. Now, what I would want to see here is an actual draft settings for this to be a really, fully featured. Because I think this would be the most important part of the mode, outside of designing your team, outside of designing uniforms and an arena, stadium. Expansion draft logic would have to be good. If teams would only put up their older players, sort of like they would just put up old players. Like, you're not going to see quarterbacks. You're not going to see Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers end up in the expansion draft. So actually getting that logic down to actually give us a interesting, but also I think realistic expansion draft would be really interesting. And I think that'd be a must. One of the setting options I would like to see in this mode would also be sort of minimum and maximum overalls for the draft pool. So maybe you only want the draft pool to be filled with players that are rated 65 to 75 overall. I think that'd be really interesting. And also, if you don't want to if you just want to have an expansion team, just like have an auto-generated team for your expansion team. I think that'd be really cool. But expansion, I think that's something that we need to get into Madden, because I think the NFL is possibly going to expand in this next decade. So I think it'd be nice to get that into the game. Number 2, the ability to toggle on and off the home field advantage features. This was a new feature in Madden 22. I think some people really liked it. I think some people really hated it. I didn't hate it, but it really just didn't add a lot to the game outside of just sometimes making routes kind of squiggly, and the momentum stuff in drone just sort of seemed really odd and arbitrary. Making a field goal sometimes would get someone a hole. They would take the whole bar momentum for tying a football game up. That just seems kind of weird to me. So it honestly had little to really no impact on the games from play to play. It was more akin just having to deal with a gnat in your room than maybe a buzzard's nest. If they want to expand on this feature, I think that'd be interesting, but either way, just give me an option to turn this stuff off. I don't want to deal with it all the time. Number 3, quarterback AI. This one I think is simple for anyone that's played a lot of franchise versus the computer. All the quarterbacks play the same. I may have even put this in one of my wish lists for multiple years now. Jared Goff, he'll make throws like Patrick Mahomes. Tom Brady and Aaron Rodgers won't play like Tom Brady or Aaron Rodgers. And then you'll have like a backup quarterback sort of torch you. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. It's been a problem for years where it just sort of feels like quarterbacks just all sort of play the same. Outside of ratings for maybe scrambling, they just sort of all feel the same, even when you use them. The accuracy ratings actually need to matter. I think that's something that we need to see. I think a lot of backups in the game are just rated far too high. Get the ratings right for quarterbacks. There should definitely be a notable drop-off in play with teams with high-end starters and guys who are sort of borderline starters, I think. I think that should be something that we should see. Number 4, less locked-in animations. The gameplay in Madden, I think, is just a little too restricting at times. I think it's sometimes in the passing game, it's definitely just a little too reliant on two-man animations. Animations, I think, the way animations sort of blend together at times, I think is just not very good. I think you'll know what I'm talking about. When you play this game, there's just times when you sort of see the animations blend together, and it's like there should be like maybe another animation or two in between that blending. It sort of feels like there's not enough animations at times, and that's how you just get these sort of just static two-man animations that sort of constantly trigger in the game. So I hope that's something that we see less of in Madden 23. So yeah. Number 5, this one is kind of a franchise feature again, but I don't know if I touched on it in my franchise wish list, but I just wrote this stuff down and sort of came up with it. Number 5, combine the old and new scouting systems into one. This seems like what EA should have done instead of just throwing out the old scouting system and bringing in this new one. Right now, you can have a player 70% scouted and not really know any of their key attributes at all. I'll give you an example. You see a corner you like, so you have him scouted, you sort of focus scout him even, and come draft time, you check to see what your scouts have done. And it seems like for whatever reason, your scouting department has spent the last 6 months scouting this player, watching tape, interviewing him, and never bothered to maybe figure out if he is a good man, zone, or press coverage player. But they do know he's a good impact blocker. That doesn't make sense. And that's the current scouting system. I just don't think that's really good. Why not just have us scout how the old way we used to? Maybe for like the first 12 weeks, that's our sort of pool. That's the players that we're going to be looking at. So we do the old way of hitting square, scouting the top 3 things, knowing their sort of top things like that. And then after that, the scouts that we have hired work and fill out some of the blanks, some of the other things, sort of the in-between stuff. So I think you just sort of combine the old with the new, and then you get sort of, I think, a fresh take on scouting. I think a little bit of both, a little more hands-on, because I think the new one is a little too hands-off to the point where like you don't even really like recognize these guys when you actually go to draft them. You don't really remember anything about them. They're sort of just blank to you. They're not, sort of players that you have scouted throughout the entire season like it used to be. So I think just combine both of those things. I think you'll have a really nice scouting system, a little bit better than what you have now. Number 6, access to legendary players that get added to MUT. I know people make legendary rosters on the file share, but like the players are already in the game, and the file share usually never works. So just give us, I think that would make doing fantasy drafts and even expansion drafts really cool. I think about that in expansion. You could add a whole roster. You could have a whole bunch of legendary players added to the expansion draft field or something like that. I think that'd be pretty cool. So, yeah, give us access to the legendary players that are already in the game. You have the rights to the players. You can just put them in there. I'm not sure why we sort of everyone else gets locked away from using the legendary players, things like that. So, yeah, add that. Number 7, blocking. I'm not sure what's going on here, but for some reason, for the love of God, the blocking is so bad in this game, and it doesn't make any sense because the gameplay lead, the guy who's leading the gameplay team, is a former offensive lineman. So I'm not really sure why blocking is just so terrible in this game. I'm not sure why linemen seem more blind than... I don't even know what to say, because this would be really mean towards blind people. We're not gonna be mean to blind people, but the linemen seem blind at times. Do I want to see my linemen win their matchups every time? Selfishly, sure, but no. Right now, it doesn't really feel like there's much of a matchup in the trenches when it comes to blocking. I think maybe this number 7 could really just be, instead of just blocking, I think trench play in general, it leaves a lot to be desired. I think it's more of like a coin flip. It's more RNG than the actual ratings, it feels like, even mattering. I think people have done, I don't want to say studies because that sounds really serious, but people have sort of looked and seen that, the ratings, not all of the ratings actually really do anything and matter at all. It's, it's kind of disappointing. You have all these numbers in the game and some of them don't matter. It doesn't really make a lot of sense. So that's number 7. I think improve line play in general for defensive and offensive players. Number 8 is equipment. I know this sounds something that really shouldn't really be something that should be a focus, I think. I know someone's like, what about gameplay? All the gameplay? Yes, of course I want all the gameplay issues fixed. I feel like I feel like I don't have to state that. You know what I mean? I feel like I don't have to state fix all the glitchy stuff. Like that should be a given. That stuff should get fixed. But I think we spend a lot of time playing the game and looking at the players. And I think there's some things that they can improve on with equipment. Can we get arm sleeves that don't look like they're painted on? Here's a funny thing. In the yard, the arm sleeves actually look like a piece of cloth, or a sleeve, if you will, that is being worn on top of the skin, not like it's painted onto the skin. Crazy, I know. More cleat options should be in the game, actually. And actually, I have to say this, they are in the game. They're just in the yard. See, a lot of cool equipment that, kind of looks similar to like a lot of the specialty stuff that a lot of players in the NFL wear is already in the yard. So I'm not really sure why this stuff is locked away from everyone else. It doesn't make a lot of sense. Just put this stuff in franchise mode. I don't get this. It's already in the game. You spent time making it. Just put it in the game. And not only that, no one plays the yard. I know there's probably someone's like, hey, me and my friends play. I don't care about you and your friend. You and your friend like to get together, and you know what you do. So don't tell me about what you and your friend like to do, because I don't care what you and your friend likes to do. The only time anyone ever plays the yard is when they have MUT rewards. And that's just EA trying to pump up the engagement numbers of the yard for shareholders who, once again, I don't care. I don't care that you want to show to some shareholder suit. Like, see, look, 50 people played the yard. This mode is important, when really they only played it so they could get a MUT card. No one cares about the yard. Take it out of the game. We'll add that one on there. That's an unofficial wish list. Take the yard out of the game. No one cares about it. Also, new helmets. We need new helmets. There's been a couple new helmets added to the league. Offensive linemen have like some new weird like helmet that has like, it's a helmet and then there's like a shield thing on the top of the helmet so they don't get too many concussions or something like that. I want to see that stuff in the game. I shouldn't have to hope this stuff gets added. I kind of expect to see new helmet, new equipment in a football game. Like, the guy that does the equipment, your one job is adding equipment. Like, just do your job and quit being lazy. One last thing, shoulder pads are still too big, make them smaller. Number 9. This is kind of a presentation one, but I'll say it right here. Cut back on the next-gen stat replays. There's nothing impressive about next-gen stats. These aren't interesting. This isn't some, high-end, AI-powered replay thing. It's just you're telling, oh, the player went fast. Oh, wow. Thanks for that, EA. I never figured that football player who just scored a 90-yard touchdown went fast. Thank you. I think in general, presentation leaves a lot to be desired. I like to see more replays that are more of maybe like the NCAA 14 variety of the actual players maybe reacting to a play instead of just like a coach looking at his play sheet. So, number 9, fix up the presentation of the game. So we're going to come here, number 10 now, and this one is going to upset people. This is why I saved it for last. And I'm sorry, but Madden 23 needs to be a true next-gen experience, as opposed to really just Madden 21 and 22 at just maybe a higher frame rate, maybe slightly crisper. If you look at each game compared to its last-gen counterpart, you'd basically think they're all running on the same console. Madden 23 needs to be just one game, one effort. And what I mean by that is, it's time for maybe Madden 23 on PS4 and Xbox One to just sort of be a legacy edition of a game, of it to just be a roster update as opposed to getting new features. I know that's, going to probably upset people, but, it is what it is. Playing on a PS5 and an Xbox X or Series X or Series X or Series S should feel remarkably different to playing on a PS4 and Xbox One. Right now, it really doesn't. I've watched people stream the game, and it's sometimes kind of hard to tell the difference of, are they playing on Xbox? Are they playing on Xbox One or Xbox Series X? Are they playing on PS4 or PS5? And you usually don't know until you see like the play call screen, where it's like the old one that was on like the right hand side or the left side of the screen, as opposed to now it's just on the bottom of the screen. So that's the only time you can really tell the difference. And I'm gonna get back to this. I know it really comes off as rude and maybe insensitive to people still on last gen. I know for a lot of people, the problem isn't even not having the money to buy a PS5 or an Xbox. The issue is that they're just really supply constrained right now in these consoles. But I know how much that sucks to hear, but it is what it is. But I would be really upset if Madden 23 isn't a real sort of next-gen game. If it didn't look next-gen or feel next-gen so far, Madden hasn't felt next-gen yet. So I hope in Madden 23 it can actually feel next-gen. So I didn't expect this video to be this long. I want to thank you guys for watching this one. What do you guys think of the list? Leave a comment down below. Let me know. Sorry if I upset anyone by what I said, but it is what it is. Be sure to hit like, be sure to hit subscribe. I'll try to upload more stuff on this channel. I just haven't been in the Madden playing mood recently. So, maybe MLB The Show's coming to the channel. Not sure yet, but either way, I want to thank you guys for watching this one, and I'll see you guys at the next one. Later.